Hello again, everybody. This is Red of Half Century Collecting Sports Cards. We're taking our edition outside today. Beautiful sunset on a nice early fall day. These were the cards that I showed last week. We are in our countdown of my favorite 400 cards. We're in the best 200 at this point. I know it's kind of subjective and I don't know if they're really in the right order, but just a good way to show some cool cards. And we're going to start out with a 1910 E98 anonymous set of Chief Bender. Now this was a set put out, they think, around 1910 that had 30 cards in it, but of the 30 cards, they all had 4 different colors in the background. Something that I guess is somewhat copied today with these parallels with the different colors. 17 of the 30 cards, or players I should say, ended up in the Hall of Fame. And until 2012, most of these cards were pretty low grade. This one's not too bad, but a little staining and stuff. But then in 2012, there was this Black Swamp find. You might have heard, but that was unearthed a bunch of cards and in really high grade condition. In fact, there was a 10 Hannes Wagner in the group. And even though this card isn't one of those Black Swamp cards, I do think it's a pretty cool card of a Ojibwe Native American born on the White Earth Indian Reservation in northern part of Minnesota. And besides given the name Charles Bender, he was also given the name Mondowessence, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it means little spirit animal. But unfortunately, at age 9, he was taken away from his family, sent to Pennsylvania to a Carlisle Indian school, where he did play a lot of baseball. He was actually a good student as well. And I'll talk a lot more about Chief Bender in a later episode with another card that I've got in my countdown. But just want you to know he was a real impressive Hall of Famer, mostly for the Philadelphia Athletics, Connie Mack managing. He won championships 3 times, including this year, 1910, also 1911 and 1913. And he was pretty much their ace of a really good staff. Had a career record of 212 and 127 with a 2.46 ERA. So there is the green version, Charles Bender. And you can see the back of those cards give a checklist of all the players, impressive players, 17 Hall of Famers on that back. Okay, next we've got another native Minnesotan. And this is the big dog, Ernie Nevers. This is his 1955 Topps All-American card. Now, he actually played for Stanford in the 20s and then in the National Football League in the late 20s and early 30s. He's part of the inaugural class of both the College Football Hall of Fame and the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He was a 4-sport athlete at Stanford. Football, basketball, baseball, and track, and they also said he was a really good swimmer. In his NFL, his big years were with the Duluth Huskies, who were part of the NFL at that time, and the Chicago Cardinals, and he still holds the NFL record for most points scored in a game, 40, and also for most rushing touchdowns in a game, 6. That since has been tied, but record that's stood for almost 100 years. And then of note, he also played in the major leagues, pitching for the St. Louis Browns. I don't think he had any baseball cards, but he pitched from 1926 to 28. And he threw, they said, a pretty underhand, kind of Dan Quisenberry-like motion. Did have some good games, including his best game that he said was against the Detroit Tigers, which had a bunch of Hall of Famers in their lineup, Ty Cobb, Heidi Manouche, Harry Heilman, and he won that game, throwing a complete game. All right, next we are going to 1909 with a T206 card. And this is Jack Chesbro. Now, Chesbro was a name that I remember from a real young age because he sat atop the single season win leaders of the modern era, which they defined from 1901 on. And yeah, I was that baseball nerd kid who looked at those kind of lists when I was a kid. And in 1904, with the New York Highlanders, now the Yankees, he won 41 games. Still the modern record for one season. Probably won't be broken. That year he went 41-12 with a 1.84 ERA, 239 strikeouts, and 10.6 WAR. He probably would have won a Cy Young if they would have had such a thing, but Cy Young was still pitching at the time. And he probably got in the Hall of Fame just based on that one season. See the back, it's a sweet Caporal cigarette card. That he did have a few other good years, though. He did win 20 games 5 times, including 28 in 1902. But that one season probably got him in. He had a little shorter career. His career record was 198 and 132, so pretty good. 2.68 ERA and 42.7 career WAR. Pretty cool looking card too. Like the color on that one. All right, next we're gonna go a little more modern. We've got a 1961 Topps MVP card of Hank Aaron. I know he's showing a few Aarons, so I won't talk a whole lot about him. But I just like the blue on that card. Blue's always been my favorite color. And man, that's just a pretty blue that dominates the background of kind of a cool pose of Hank Aaron. All right, and then last we're gonna show a 1962 of Whitey Ford. And I know Whitey Ford's got a lot more valuable and better cards than a 62 probably, but this card just means a lot to me because I've had it since I was 14 or 15 years old. I had a friend, Todd, who at the time was given a bunch of cards by, I think it was either an older cousin or an uncle from the early 60s, and he was supposed to sell them for him. And this was one of the cards I ended up buying from him. And the reason I did, because we played these all-star games where we used stats on the back of the card of that previous year. I don't know if you can see that good, but that year, Whitey Ford, 1961, the year that's shown on the 62 card, he went 25-4. So it was a card that I got to use for my all-star games and get a lot of wins because of his wins. But in his career, probably one of the best winning percentages of all time, .690. Definitely helped by being a great pitcher on a great team. Those Yankees just seemed to always be in the World Series back in that time. He won 236 games and only lost 106 in his career. 2.75 ERA, 57 WAR, and in 11 World Series, with the Yankees winning 6 of those, he went 10-8 with a 2.71 ERA and 94 strikeouts to only 34 walks in 146 innings pitched. And with that 62, it is time to show a 1962 pack. And I think that's one of the cooler looking packs, a little more colorful. There's some stamps, I guess, in these packs. You can see the back. You can actually see that card. I think it's somebody on the Pirates. I looked it up once. It's not Roberto or anybody of big significance, but cool pack from 1962. So that's it for today. Here's the cards from today and the cards from last week. Thanks for watching. Enjoying this beautiful day out on the deck.